Hello, and welcome to another DLC bonus episode of the Extremely Casual Gamers podcast with Ali, Chris, and Guy. We're about mid-January now. However, we have not recorded this week. We are speaking to you from the past.
Mid-December.
Yes. I trust that we've all had a lovely summer period and New Year and Christmas and things.
Yeah.
Chris, I'm going to hand over to you now. Because you're leading this one apparently.
Yeah, no, I came up with this one. It was literally just a chat about what are we doing? What are we up to this year? What are our goals? What are our aspirations? What do we want to have achieved by the end of 2025? Just for full reference, there's a little stop clock on the wall here. The entire time Ellie was talking, I was trying to make it go.
And I just kept talking because I was like, I'm not stopping. I've started.
Yeah, and then Guy took it off me as soon as I started talking and made it work straight away. So
that was a real alpha move.
It was.
It was.
I think it's just because I'm closer to it.
That could be it.
I think so.
I think it's because you're an alpha. So basically, just a discussion on what we want to achieve this year. What do we want from the podcast this year? What do we want in our personal lives this year?
Deep.
I'm going to start with the podcast. What do we want from this puppy this year? Because I think we need to step things up a level. We've done it for over a year now.
Yep.
We've had the odd piece of, like paid partnership here and there, but certainly not enough to sustain us.
No.
Yeah, the amount of work we put into this it's a lot, it's hours every week.
Yeah.
So my personal goal for our podcast is to get this thing sponsored.
Me too.
So that we can start cranking it up a notch and getting guests in and doing more episodes. You know what I mean?
Agreed.
And also for us to build up some money so that if we wanted to, we could buy something like an Xbox
and give it away.
Yeah. Or every single time a new game comes out, there's some big games coming out this year, being able to buy a couple of versions of it.
Yeah.
And then give them away.
Chris is not happy about this.
No, I'm the guy's in charge of our account, and we know what his spending habits are like.
I have not spent $1 from the ECG account without it being authorized by the person in charge.
Where'd you get that Halo 2 shit?
I spent this with my own money.
Nah, that's a cool shit. But the idea behind a podcast, though, is we get successful enough that we can just partner up with Xbox.
No, I understand that. If we can, then we should.
Money.
But there are even radio stations, they'll partner up with, music labels to give you tickets to concerts and stuff. But even sometimes the radio station just outright buys tickets because they've got an idea and they want to do it. And the media partner won't allow tickets. So if we can,
it would be nice to have that freedom.
Get the games for free and then give them away. But if we want to, something comes up, we've got an idea to buy a game and give it away.
No, you're right.
Imagine if guy comes on, he's like, oh, there's this new game, Empire of the Ants.
Yeah.
I'm really fizzed up for it. I'm going to buy 5 copies and send it out.
It.
And I've already done it anyway. So
and actually, I used one of the codes for myself, so there's only 4.
and by the way, I don't like it. So that could be quite exciting. But that is something I really want for our podcast because we can't continue to do this thing. Obviously, it's great. The support's great. I love the product. I love listening back to it.
Yeah, love the listeners.
I love the
community.
listeners. I love that we get to come in and chat about games.
Yeah.
I love that on my current work expenses with my accountant, I have a little thing called video podcast where I can pretty much claim any video game as long as I speak about it on a podcast.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Little things like that. However, we need to start making some money so that we can ensure longevity and evolve this into something bigger.
I agree, and it's not. I just want to clarify, it's not because we want the money.
It's
actually about the investment we can put back into it. So, for example, having an actual producer would be a huge step up because I'm currently producing the actual audio and video. You guys are doing your social clips, writing that kind of stuff.
I'm on strike currently, and our guy's doing it.
Chris threw a tanty.
Yeah.
Nah, but we're all producing it ourselves, which is great and it's fine.
And a lot of podcasts do that. A lot of podcasts are still doing that.
Totally. But I just know if we have the resource for a producer and the money to pay one, it would mean you'd get more content.
Yes.
You'd get more thought out content too. We could do. Cousin Beck was actually talking to me about this. She said, I'd love if you guys ended up doing things like your own little gaming awards. So we could do our own little 4-week story arc essentially where everyone votes and we have a prize and blah, 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 blah. So I would love to do stuff like that, but it's hard without the resource. That's why I'd love to have some sort of production support.
But the situation we're in now where we've got the studio, which looks great, we can put videos on YouTube. By the way, if you're listening to this, you want to see the episodes, they're all on YouTube. They look great.
Yeah.
The fact that we can do this, we don't have to pay to use the studio.
Yeah.
We then edit everything ourselves. At some point, someone needs to make some money out of this. Otherwise, the person with the studio might be like,
you need to
it's not worth our investment of you guys using it.
Exactly.
So somewhere something needs to happen to ensure the future of ECG. Because when I started doing this with you guys, I was like, in 5 years' time, I want to look back and I'm like, known for video game reviews in New Zealand, and we've got a really good video game brand. I want that to happen.
Yeah.
So that's a personal goal for the podcast itself.
Yeah.
Personal goal? I don't know. I don't know.
I'm just chilling.
I don't know. Yeah.
Got no ambitions there?
Nah. Well, I'm really
quite happy with who you are.
Yeah, I mean, because I work in radio currently, so do you, Ellie. Guy, your wife does, and you've had a long history of working in radio too. Yeah. One thing I've figured out this year just gone is I don't think radio is the be-all and end-all for me anymore. Once upon a time, it was the only thing I wanted to do.
Yeah.
Now it isn't.
No.
Yeah, that's cool. You've diversified a lot.
Well, my brain's just gone, you know what, radio, it's not a hard job. I'm not a labourer. I'm not doing like a nurse or whatever.
Yeah.
However, in the creative industry, every day you have to come in with like 5 ideas.
That's a lot.
Good ones. And then they start getting weaker and weaker, and your brain starts getting worse and worse at coming up with ideas.
Yeah.
Whereas if you could just take something like a TV show or something where you can just get all your ideas, put it down, edit it all up, and release it.
Yeah.
And then have a break. And then, I'd love to move towards something like that.
I know exactly what you mean.
Radio and especially announcers, well, just announcers really, they're constantly mining their life for content.
Constantly, yeah.
So even when you are on a break, like, the 4-week break over the Christmas period, I know my wife, for example, will be sitting there enjoying a moment, or something will be happening, and she'll be thinking in her brain, how can I turn this into content so that we can talk about in the show when I start back? And why do you want, any normal job, you're not thinking about your job over the break. Like
Some people are. Stressful jobs,
yeah, for sure. Yeah,
but to be constantly thinking about ideas for the show for when she returns, but at the same time it's the pressure that she's under, because then if everyone comes back to the show day one and they've got no ideas because they're completely switched off, then the show's gonna stink for the first week. So I get that burnout, and the want to diversify.
Like I think I could easily keep doing it. Like if someone was like, Chris, you're gonna be in radio for the next 30 years, I'd be like, sweet, super lucky. That's awesome. Yeah. However, now that I've been doing it for a wee bit, I'm like, you know what? I think I might aim for other stuff.
Yeah.
And try, I really want to move into rugby league's one of my passions. I want to be more involved with rugby league in New Zealand.
Yeah.
Cool.
Because it's a sport on the rise. So I'm going to try and get in there and pitch stuff, and because I'll try and align it with my passions, like I have done with this podcast.
Yeah.
Gaming.
Love it.
Old cars, stuff like that. What about you, Ellie? I'm curious to hear from you.
I would love, I'm the same with you with the potty. I would love just a bit more, something to just, I feel like we're not plateauing in terms of listenership. I just mean we just need a bit more.
We're comfortable.
Yeah, and it's at that point where it's it's either going to make or break. So I'm with you. I want if you're listening to this and you know anyone that plays a game, even just tell your friends about this podcast.
Yeah.
It actually, this is not a big PSA to give us listeners, but genuinely, if you actually know someone who would listen to this, all that word of mouth and marketing really does help. Just get the numbers up there, and hopefully then we can get more resources to, at the end of the day, help our episodes be better for you.
Well, it's for example, where do you still act with Viva?
Yeah.
So their product is amazing to look at. The videos are such high quality, the frequency of posting, all that stuff comes because they started small like we did.
Yeah.
They managed to get some income from it, and then you put that back into the product. All of a sudden, we could be doing 2 episodes a week. We could be doing 3. There could be new people appearing. There could be...
Totally. I'd love to have even more listener interactive stuff as well. Little events, even online gaming, just anything really.
Tournaments, all sorts of stuff like that.
Yeah, the sky's the limit.
The limit.
It's just we can't quite get there yet.
Especially with the way that gaming is going as well. I feel like 2025 is going to be a huge year for gaming, not just in terms of the content that's coming out, but just the industry itself and how other industries interact with it. Companies doing things like we had Spark Game Arena last year, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So for us to be doing a gaming podcast at the same time the industry is on the rise is a huge opportunity for us.
Definitely,
but we need to be in a position where we can actually say to these companies, yes, we're the brand to align with because we've got XYZ.
Yeah.
Totally, yeah. But from a personal angle, I will still be in radio for a little bit because I'm on a fixed term contract currently producing. I don't necessarily think it'll be forever like you, Chris. I've popped in for a bit because I do love it.
I feel like you're in a real figuring out what Ellie wants to do.
I am.
Yeah.
I really am. And I think I want to try and come back to myself even more next year. And I do also want to invest a bit more energy and time into educating others on ADHD.
Yeah,
autism and ADHD. So both of them separately, but also as a combo, which is the combo I have. I would really like to maybe put more of my education out there and try and help others, because I recognize it in others, and I just see the despair that I went through and stuff like that. I want to try and help others by spreading that message.
Because
next
you're
year.
30, right?
Yeah, 32. Yeah.
32.
Yeah.
And I feel like you, at some point, 1 or 2 or 3 years ago, you switched, and now you've only just figured out who you are.
Yeah.
And you know what I mean? So to wait that
100%.
long, that's pretty crazy.
Yeah, and I've been masking my whole life too, so I feel like I've done things that have been more people-pleasing than maybe what actually Ellie wanted and all this kind of stuff. So I've been figuring that out this year, and now next year I want to align all those thoughts and what I've learned and kind of use that for the better, because I'm very passionate about it. I did study psychology at university. It's always been my passion to talk about people and mental health and behavior. Now I'm like, I've got ADHD. That kind of explains a lot of that, and I kind of just want to like help educate people on that. If that would probably be my main personal kind of goal next year.
Bloody good.
Say.
That's
yeah.
good.
What about you, Guy?
I mean, yeah, you guys have already covered it for the podcast. I just want us to level up and if to use a gaming term. I love the idea of us having guests on the show next year. I feel like that's going to be really big, because it not only is it cool to have cool people in on the show, but it also highlights the vast range of gamers out there. And there'll be people who we could have a guest on, and somebody watching be like, I had no idea that she loved a game, or I didn't realize that he was such a big fan of that game. So that'll be really cool.
Yeah.
And I believe as well, all the things that we've talked about that we want to do this year, I believe that we will do.
Yeah.
Like it's just a matter. It's not a matter of if, but when.
Yeah, I agree.
I feel like we've achieved so much in the last year just on our own.
Yeah.
So I think that we've got the passion and the drive to do it, and we've got a really cool audience behind us
We
that
do.
would support us. So,
Well, I think the
We
thing
do.
from day one we've always had too is the product that, even our first episode, Ellie, I barely knew you.
Not
And
at
you
all.
can go back to the start and listen to our first episode, and it's not being like a arrogant person or whatever, but you can listen to it and go, oh, this product is it's decent.
yeah, everyone talks about how we've got a great rapport.
Straight away, yeah, exactly. It helps that Guy and I have known each other for yonks as well,
Yeah.
but like the product is cool, and that's the thing that I always come back to. Like, no, the product is good. You've just got to keep doing the hard work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So just hopefully next year we take another step and more things happen.
Totally.
Yeah.
Amen.
But from a personal level, I mean, I get you guys know that I've had a pretty rough second half of the year with my mental health. Like June really threw me for a loop. Not just me, but also everyone around me. And you guys, thank you to you guys for being
That's
so
right, mate.
supportive and looking after me, and everyone who's listened as well and sent messages. It's genuinely appreciated. I feel like now it's been a lot of recovery for the last few months, and I'm in a good place now. If anything, I'm just a little bit gutted because I had so many like aspirations and goals for this year that just didn't happen because of the slip up. So I want to achieve those this coming year.
Yeah.
I just want to sort of get back to normal.
Yeah.
Well, it's not about getting back to the old guy, because I feel like that's never really going to happen.
I
Because
think
this
you're
has
better
happened.
now.
And that's
You're
what
more aware.
That's what a lot of people talk about. Is they'll go through these big mental things, and then they'll come out the other side feeling a lot better and stronger. And I'm in that phase now. I still have moments of not panic, but like it's almost like worry.
Yeah.
Because I've experienced such a horrible panic attack that I never want to experience it again. But I know that I can, and it's like, ooh.
Oh,
Yeah.
it
So
could
I'm
be at any moment.
I'm medicated and I'm open communication with my wife and stuff like that. So there are things that I wanted to achieve in 2024 that I'll try and achieve in 2025.
Bro, you were speaking of things that everyone is feeling. I
Yeah.
100% had heaps of shit I wanted to achieve in 2024.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think you still actually, even though you went through that stuff, obviously it built up to that. It had to happen. It was just the course of your life at that point.
Totally.
And I think you should be very proud of yourself for getting through that and also talking about it very publicly, admitting that you weren't okay and going and getting help for it. I actually am so proud of you this year for
same.
doing that. I really am.
Absolutely.
Like, it's not easy. It's actually really horrible when you feel so alone. So I think you should be more proud than ever. I'm actually getting emotional because it's really hard to talk about that stuff. So please don't feel like you've like lost out on 6 months of your life, because you
Absolutely.
haven't.
Yeah.
You haven't.
You've gained 6 months of your life that other people could really stand to gain. The knowledge you've gained, the experience you've gone through.
Yeah.
And also,
Wow, that was really what a way to end that.
Did you want to make a joke but you didn't know if it
You
was...
realised-
Just do it. It'll be funny.
No, you're all good, man.
Yeah.
How can I end this really lovely moment by just shitting all over it?
Finish Empire of the Ants. That's my biggest thing for 20. One of the big things that I've taken away from this whole mental health thing is that in the time of it, when I was in my lowest of lows, I never believed anybody when they said that they'd experienced similar things. But then when I started to hear those stories more, it was so amazing to hold on to hope, knowing that somebody would say something that they experienced, and it so resonated with me that it actually made me feel less alone. And that's something what you were talking about before with your ADHD. So I will continue to talk about it publicly because so many people have messaged me saying, thank you for saying just this one small thing.
Yeah.
Because I'm also experiencing it. So if anything I say ever makes anybody feel less alone, then I'm more than happy to do it.
Yeah.
So I know that's not really what we talk about here on this podcast, but it's a huge part of me.
It is.
And it's also a huge part of how I game as well. Like this has affected my my gaming habits ever since June. I used to be heavy into certain things and now I'm not, you know? So that's what I will be focusing on. I obviously couldn't have done it without the help of my wife and my parents and in-laws and you guys. And so 2025 I think is just going to be a year of momentum and healing for me.
Nice. Love your work. Hey, and listeners, what have you got planned for 2025? Share us in the ECG for ECG Facebook group. We'd love to hear what you've got planned. Let us know if you've got any ideas for the podcast for 2025 as well. Like, what would you like to see?
What you want to see from us?
Also, like, you guys always post really good segment ideas and discussion topics. We need to be better next year, I reckon, at taking those and going, all right, so the second topic of our podcast is going to be
from
this one
so-and-so.
that blah, blah, put in the group chat.
We did it a little bit with listener feedback. We were it's like the listener question of the week and we briefly touch on it, but it's like, let's just...
We could almost take it and make that a weekly DLC, a bonus episode that's a listener suggested.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, this is just spitballing here.
No, that's great.
But we'll put it on Patreon and you have to buy it.
Yeah.
Got it.
Paywall.
Yeah. Paywall, your little loot boxes.
Yeah.
Microtransactions. That's what's coming in 2025.
Guys, simmer down, guy. You were doing so well.
Hey, have a great week, and we'll see you back next week for our first proper episode of 2025. Bye.